Hello everybody, welcome back to Talking Soccer. I, of course, am your host, Justin Horniger, and today I wanted to talk a bit about what is going on at Chelsea Football Club. This topic has been something on my mind relatively lately, especially after Total Soccer Show's Todd Bowie explanation last week that I really appreciated, but then the João Felix loan happened, the disaster against Fulham happened, and then the Mykhailo Mudryk signing happened. And I think that really, if you view Chelsea's dysfunction through the João Felix straight red card in the 59th minute that I wish I could show you footage of because it's just so amazing. Because you can take the player out of Atletico, but you can't take the Atletico out of the player. And it happens in a game where João Felix, who has been brought into Chelsea on loan for the rest of the season for a 10 million euro fee and I believe 6 million euro wage bill for the remainder of the season. It's an expensive play to make in a team that already has a high wage bill, and that's before the events of yesterday happened. But if you watch that game against Fulham, all of Chelsea's success come down the left side through Koulibaly, through João Felix's interplay, and João Felix was kind of the only real attacking player for Chelsea that provided any sort of creativity, and especially in the ways that he was able to attack Fulham's defense and actually kind of make inroads into the attack. It really looks like that this loan should, when he comes back from his red card suspension, be a fantastic opportunity for him. Now, in the 58th minute, he kind of has a bad first touch on it, overruns the ball, goes lunging in sloppily. It's a real bad tackle. That's a straight red right away. And now Chelsea are down a man, and they lose to Fulham 2-1, something that Fulham hasn't done in a long, long time, which is beat Chelsea. And if you look at that, Chelsea dropped to 10th in the standings. They are a whole 10 points out of Champions League football, I should say. And you wonder just what kind of impact this is going to have, not just on their viability as a club, but on financial fair play as well. I know a lot of times, like, creative financials, Premier League clubs usually don't find themselves in financial fair play issues, but it's hard to see how they're not when, come yesterday, they swoop in. Arsenal had been after Mykhailo Mudryk from Shakhtar Donetsk for a long time now. They had negotiated up to a 70 million fee. It was all ready to go, and Todd Bowie and Chelsea come in with a 100 million euro transfer offer. This, I think it's technically 80 million with incentives that raise it to 100, and a 7-year contract. And while Mudryk is a good player, he's a 22-year-old winger, he's explosive, he can play on the left side or the right side. He had 2 goals, 3 assists in the Champions League group stage. He had 13 goals in this season in Ukraine. So he's obviously a good player. Like, he's talented, right? But he's not necessarily at the caliber of what you would expect of a 100 million euro player. Maybe if he was younger, when you're looking at potential, maybe then he's worth 100 million if he's at the place that he's at now. But frankly, that's not a player you should be spending 100 million euros on, even if he does end up being successful for you, because he is a left winger. If there's anything that Chelsea have, it's that they have like 5 starting left wingers. They have João Felix was playing on the left side of the formation, and I think that's probably what happens, because I don't see them taking Kai Havertz out at this point, especially when there's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Wesley Fofana fighting for that spot as well. You also have, when Chelsea Pulisic comes back when Christian Pulisic comes back from injury, and Hakim Ziyech, also very good play. I think it hurts me as an American to say it, but I think Ziyech is probably better than Pulisic. And you have all those players fighting for one spot and one 75th minute substitution. On the right side, it's not much better. Mason Mount is going to start for all of eternity, it seems like. And I don't know. I don't understand what the goal here with the roster construction. It seems like Todd Bowley seems to see something shiny that his rivals are going after, and he goes out and gets it. And Chelsea are in 10th place. This is a dysfunctional team with a newer coach that, probably needs a little bit more time to get set up to really figure out this roster, because it is a very bloated roster. And they talked about this in the Total Soccer Show, how Cucurella has been quite poor for Chelsea, but he was very good for Brighton. And even after Graham Potter came in, he hasn't necessarily been able to resurrect Cucurella. Now, that is this season. It's a 19-game sample size for the team as a whole. But you can see where these issues are. At a certain point, you're going to have very good starting caliber players sitting on the bench, rotting on the bench, so to say. While João Felix isn't there long term, he's definitely there under the understanding that he's going to get a fair amount of playing time. And I think in informed João Felix is probably, if he lives up to his potential, if he's in form, he's probably the best of the bunch there. I just like João Felix a lot. And maybe that's kind of my analysis, and it depends on what Graham Potter is looking at. But it's not like Christian Pulisic is necessarily defensively minded as well. It speaks to roster construction for the sake of roster construction. There's no clear goal here. It's not like Graham Potter has a player profile in mind that he wants to go out and grab to really fit his system. This is a guy looking at shiny things, wanting to bring him into the team. Now, with some due respect, some of these problems were there before Bowley and his team came in, obviously. This has been Chelsea's MO for a long time, especially if you remember when Kai Havertz and Timo Werner came in at the same time. That was the question then, was how are you going to fit these players in, and what happens if they don't perform up to their valuation of their transfer fee? I think paying $100 million for Mudryk, now you're putting a lot of excess pressure on a guy who, while unproven in the Premier League, is a Champions League scorer. He has proven he can do that, on a team that doesn't have the build-up that Chelsea should have, or the service that Chelsea should have. And, he should be able to produce, but again, that's the problem. Chelsea have a lot of players that should be able to produce, but there's something wrong in the soup there. And maybe it's as simple as breaking it all down. It's not that easy, though. They have a very large wage bill. They have players under long contracts, and this is not an easy fix. This isn't as simple as firing Graham Potter, which I think, unfortunately, could happen sooner rather than later, just based on where Chelsea are in the standings and how much is at stake in finishing within those European spots. Now, they're only about 5 points outside of 5th place, which, of course, Europa League, potential Champions League, depending on how that competition goes, if an English team wins it. But there's a lot of money on the line to play in the Champions League, to have that exposure for a Chelsea team that, frankly, is used to being successful. They sit in 10th. It doesn't look good. I'm sure they'll finish higher than that, but if you're looking at the Manchester United model of total team dysfunction until Erik ten Hag came in, that's a 7th place finish every year, bang on. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that Mykhailo Mudryk is a good signing for Chelsea? Do you think that it fits the mold of what this team has? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're here, make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if this is your first time coming along. And one last thing on the Mudryk front, because I don't want it to seem like I don't like him as a player. I think with a 7-year contract, he's a player that, is probably there for the long term. And if they approach it as a long-term project to the point where he's not being forced to start in games where he maybe isn't ready for, or, maybe isn't played over players that are in better form, what have you. I think if they're looking at it as a long-term project, I think it definitely works out better for the player, since he's going to be there longer than everyone else around him on the depth chart, right? You would think. So that's just kind of my last thought. While I think it's a good signing, I think it's a drastically overpaid player that they now brought in, at least overpaid on the transfer fee. I don't know what that salary is. And just a larger symptom of the bigger problem. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching today. And we will talk very, very soon.